It's Matariki Day in New Zealand, 24th of June. Brand new for New Zealand, a new public holiday. I'm with Elias. What's your view on this?
Max, to be honest, I didn't even realise that today was a holiday. I was so consumed with work, and suddenly somebody said to me, "So what are you doing this long weekend?" Matariki, new year, new opportunity. But do we really need more opportunities? We need to celebrate, I think, for sure. We need to give people a chance to unwind. But I think that I have a question, and the question is, how does this impact our economy? Because I look at this as a business owner, thinking to myself, I have to make a profit. But when I see a holiday introduced, it has some fish hooks. Massive fish hooks. And that's what I'm a bit concerned about. Now, look, first off, I think we both agree that, as New Zealanders, we're very proud of our Maori heritage. Indeed.
Very proud of the haka and those things that are recognised worldwide and what we're about in New Zealand. That's great. But my view is it shouldn't occupy our total existence. It's part of something we should embrace and encourage, but certainly it shouldn't embrace everything. It shouldn't just take us over. Now, from a small business perspective, there's 500,000 of us in New Zealand, and we are really tight at the moment because we've gone through COVID. This extra holiday all comes down to us. The government are giving us nothing. It actually comes to us paying our staff, and that really comes at a cost.
It does. It comes at a major cost because we have legislative requirements that literally puts a cost on the business. And I think about what's happening here in New Zealand, and I compare this with my experience internationally. I know that there are many countries that have multiple holidays. The USA is classic for that. But when I go to the USA and when we leave New Zealand, everywhere is international. We want to spend a bit of time there. But people don't have a lot of time because they're taking little holidays everywhere. So the question I then ask is, how does our legislation in New Zealand affect us? Are we oversupplied with holidays? Are we oversupplied with time off? I don't know.
Well, look, let's look at the cost for a starter. For a businessman, a person, it costs phenomenal amounts. So not only do you lose a day's productivity, that means one day down. It's a 4-day week now. And so you lose 20% of your profits for a week. Not only that, you're going to have to pay that employee for sitting at home. So you have to pay them a full day's wages. Now, if you did get them into work, that's possible if they agreed to come in. So you've got to pay them a rate and a half. So that's full pay wages plus another half again. But wait for it, there's more. Plus to give them another day off at some other time on full wages. So that's actually 2.5 times the pay. And losing productivity for a day, not 1 day, 2 days, if in fact you got them in. So, hang on, it's 1 day. But still, it's just a loss, a massive loss for a small employer.
It is a loss. And at the end of the day, if you're in business, I assume for most businesses, their raison d'etre is to deliver a profit to the shareholders, to their community. But if you're going to have to deliver a profit and you're having those additional costs, something has to give. And maybe that something is an increase in your rates or your service costs. Surely that can't be sustainable for a long term.
And you know what? It's one of the worst times. We've just gone through COVID, 2 years of lockdown. Us in Auckland, we had 4 months of prolonged lockdowns. And in that 4 months, the law, our government required us to pay our full wages to those staff. 4 months of no money. And most of small business people went and got loans to actually help cope through that. Yeah. Admittedly, the government gave us some minimum rate, but by goodness, that didn't even cope with most people's wages. So not only on top of that, we've had a doubling of the sick pay and an encouragement from our government that people should stay home sick. So that's 10 days. That generosity didn't come from the government. It comes back again to us employers. We've got to pay for that extra 10 days of people can be off with no productivity.
So first of all, I think we're both in agreement here. We're not anti holidays. We're not anti employees taking time off. We want our employees to have a balanced lifestyle.
Dead right.
And at the end of the day, there's balance and then there's overcompensation. I think we've almost reached that point of overcompensation. But I'd like to come back to practical things that we can do? What are we able to empower our workforce to then deliver something that will give them the time that they require, but give us the profitability and sustainability to keep a business going? I mean, what's the percentage of small business owners here in New Zealand? It's phenomenal, isn't it?
97%. Yeah, and that is phenomenal. We're a nation of contractors, and it's the little guys that are paying for it. And I think that's lost on our government, because our government are made up of, our current government, which is the Labour government, is made up 30% of their caucus or their politician are ex-union members. Union members spend all their time in large businesses negotiating collective agreements. They don't hang out with small businesses, and government MPs see government departments, which are massive, and they've got, it's only taxpayers' money, so we can give them holidays. It's not a problem. But it's us small guys that are really, really going to hold this together, and it's us small guys. 97% of all enterprises in New Zealand have under 20 staff.
Well, if the small guy can win against the giant, and there are some ancient stories of David versus Goliath. Now, we're not trying to knock over the giants. We just want some equity. We just want something that is sustainable. And I look at this and I think to myself, We've created an environment today, Max, that has forced people into the home, into isolation, into segregation. Oh, maybe.
Well, no, it definitely has. Segregation is quite correct. But look, I love the fact that you come back to this other thing. How can we make it work? And there's one thing missing in this calculation, this discussion, is the word productivity. And I think that's where we got to have both productivity and also the ability to reward our staff and make them have a life standard which is really good. Give them time off, all those things. But do you know how this works with small businesses? Small business can compete with big business. Why? They're flexible. They can do things that big businesses can't. They can wiggle in. They can actually do the job. They can do it more efficiently and effectively. Big businesses engage contractors because they've got that ability and they can do it more economically. So why can't we make this for our workers as well? But unfortunately, we're heading towards a new law which is about to come into place, which will regiment hours of work, which will regiment everything. And all those terms and conditions and the flexibilities will be actually lost, which I'm not looking forward to.
I don't think anybody's looking forward to that. I'm a massive football fan. Football, the round ball, not the oval ball. And I look at this and I think to myself about some of the most successful teams in the world. And I love to follow the English Premier League. And in the English Premier League, I've been following Arsenal Football Club for a number of years. And I know at one stage they introduced a policy where they said everybody will get the same wage. But if your star performer looks at their input and productivity and they think, well, honestly, I'm better than that person. I'm getting paid the same. Getting paid the same? Really? Surely there's got to be some differentiation in there. And I'd like to think that productivity is important, but how do we measure it? How do we sustain it if it's a one size?
And that's the great thing talking with you, my friend, because you understand a successful small business is because they're unique. They offer something different and they've got this flexibility, but they can also offer something different. And that's what makes and look, big businesses love us for that. They're small businesses because we've got something extra. We can be an expert in a particular field, very unique. And that uniqueness is what us Kiwis love. And I think that's the fundamental of us all.
Yeah, people often say that they feel sorry for us. Coming from Australia where they have iron ore, they can mine minerals, they've got all these resources, and they say, but you poor Kiwis, we feel sorry for you. But then they say, we shouldn't feel sorry. You have something even better. Number 8 wire mentality. We are able to think through the issues and come up with something productive. Max, I'd like to just give a thought here. And the thought came to me through a story I heard years ago about a young lad who successfully, out of Sydney, joined a large law firm. And as he's going up the corporate ladder, he thought one day, maybe this isn't the right move for me. So he changed careers and went into recruitment. Very, very successful recruitment. Now, here's a funny thing. In recruitment, he used to come in late in the day, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, have a long lunch, go home early, but he was very successful. Others would come in at 6 or 7 a.m. all the way 7 or 8 p.m. at night. Until one day his boss came up to him and said, "Oh, Joe, people are rather concerned. You're not coming in and fitting in with the rest." So Joe looked at her and he said, "So what are you looking for? Are you looking for pleasing methods or pleasing results? Because I can only give you one. If we can work on the pleasing results, the productivity, doesn't matter how we do this, surely we can empower our teams, our workforce to come in and deliver. But how do we do that? How do we stop that one-size-fits-all mentality?"
What a great example. You know, Elias, you really provided a good example of why small businesses are better, because it is all about productivity. And that's something that's missing is a calculation and part of our future aspirations, our government's future aspirations. And we really need to sell that better. Thank you for coming today. Let's look forward to next week, because I want more of your wisdom and, well, aspiring sort of thoughts.
Thanks for having me, Max. It's always a pleasure.